Right. Well, welcome everyone. So excited to have all of you here. I know this is a big topic for a lot of people. I only do these sessions a few times a year, but because of where we are right now with all the kind of news that we're hearing in the headlines and challenges for class of 2026, I just felt like now is the right time to really make sure I'm providing real insight and a resource to all of our community to help people be more savvy about how to land jobs, especially our young adults and our recent grads, and how to be successful in making that happen. So, just so everyone knows, we are recording. And for any of you who need to leave early or you couldn't make it, everybody will receive a copy of the recording as well. If you've just joined, please put all of your questions that you have for me about the job search into the Q&A. That's at the bottom of the screen. There will be some ongoing resources that my intern Meg will be putting into the chat. Take a look for that there as well. I've asked people just to say where you're joining from. We have people from all over the country, which I'm thrilled to have everyone here. And also should be putting some new resources as well, like things like how to have a great thank you note or how to answer the tell me about yourself questions. We have awesome resources, so take a look for that as well. So let's get into it. When we all think about this process, I'll start from a parent perspective of our kids going to college, they get an education and land a job. That was the goal. That is what we thought we were told. And we thought that this was going to be easy. But for a host of reasons, it's been much more difficult than any of us could have anticipated. And if you're a student watching, you're also wondering, I thought I picked the right major. I thought I went to the right school. I thought I was doing all the right things. Why am I having so much difficulty? And if we even look at the job market and what's been happening, it's very different now than it was even 6 months ago or even a year ago. So we have this challenge. And we really have it from the perspective of a couple of parties, right? We have students, you're struggling, you're overwhelmed, you're not sure whether to use AI when you apply, you don't know whether your major was the right one or whether there's even opportunities. Parents, you're thinking, I thought the university was going to handle this. I thought they promised on the campus tour that my kid would have a job when they graduated. And candidly, as a parent, and I'll speak as one as well, we haven't all looked for a job in 20 plus years. So we're not sure what advice to give to our kids. And then we have employers who have a need for talent, but now they have a decision to make. Do they hire or do they just use AI to replace potential talent? We have this problem and this major disconnect. And my goal for this evening is really to help you understand it, help you understand what's happening in the market, and give you a real strategy with a real approach of how to navigate it, hopefully with success. So for those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Beth Hendler-Grunt. I am the CEO and founder of Next Great Step. I founded this business 11 years ago, and our sole focus is to help college students and recent grads launch into the job or internship that they desire. I am also the Amazon #1 bestselling author of the book called The Next Great Step, The Parent's Guide to Launching Your New Grad into a Career. And by the way, it's not just for parents, it's for students too. And I'm also a mom. I'm a mom of a class of 2026 college senior. So I'm living this with you real time. And I have an older son who finished grad school in 2025. So I get it. I understand the stress. I understand the worry. I understand that sometimes your kids don't want to listen to you. I understand as a student, you don't always want to listen to your parents. But our focus is really to give a really clear, simple, structured, step-by-step approach that enables young adults to be successful in landing the job they desire. And my goal for this evening is to really enlighten everyone about what's happening and how to make that happen. So for the agenda is, I'm going to talk about what parents thought was going to happen when they sent their kids to college and they pursued the job search, what students were hoping to happen, and what employers are expecting when they see candidates. I have to talk about our outlook and the trends and what is happening right now in February of 2026 and what the outlook is for hiring for our young adults this year. We can't have that conversation without talking about AI, the impact of AI, and how to use it in a way that actually is productive versus just going down a black hole of doing too many things. And I really want to leave you with actionable tips and guidance of what to do. And then I'm going to be here to answer your questions. So my goal is to maybe talk for about 15, 20 minutes and then really allow at least a good 30 to 40 minutes to answer your questions. And if for some reason I can't get to them, I'll make sure that I can follow up with following videos or in my emails. All right. So let's talk about this. So as parents, we thought that when we went on the campus tour for our students, that the university was going to handle this, right? They're going to get this great education. They're going to engage in resources like career services or the career fair or connecting to professors or organizations. But did you know that only 4 in 10 students actually go to career services? We also thought that skills like life skills, like networking, or even how to use AI, or all those skills in terms of meeting people and being engaged and building relationships, we expect that to happen when they're in college. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. We have a lot of students who are still significantly impacted by the pandemic. We also think they're going to build those relationships that will lead them to opportunities. The other thing, as I mentioned earlier, is, like us, sometimes as parents, we might be very successful in our careers, but we haven't looked for a job in 20 plus years, and we're not sure about the advice to give our kids. We're not sure what the right way is or how to really help them navigate it. And the one thing I hear a lot from parents is, I wish I knew. I wish I knew how early the process starts. I wish I knew how to give them guidance to kind of engage or start in the process sooner. But I wish I knew how to tell them how to navigate in this world of AI. But I just want to assure you that it's not too late. It's never too late for any of you to help and support your young adult, no matter where they are in the search process. Let's talk about students and what you're thinking. Students come into college so excited, so optimistic, right? You feel you went to the right school and you're studying the right major, whatever that is, and that you're doing everything that was told to you, that if you do this and get all the right grades or take these classes, then you'd have the outcome of that internship or the job that you desire. So very often you get into school and you say, you know what? After freshman or sophomore year, let me try to get an internship because that's what everyone's talking about. So let me go online and I'll just apply, or I'll hit the easy button on LinkedIn and let me see. It must be a numbers game. Let me just see if I can, put my resume out there and see what happens. And they do. And sometimes, very often, they don't hear back. Or if you do hear back, you're sometimes it could be a scam job, or you progress and then you're ghosted. And then you're like, no, maybe there's another way. Maybe I need to just fill my resume with all the right keywords, or I need to trick the tracking system, the automated tracking system, or trick AI into showing that I have all the right keywords, that I'm the right candidate. And you try again, and sometimes it works. Very often it doesn't always work. And then you start to question yourself and say, well, maybe I'm doing things wrong. Maybe I'm not smart enough, or maybe I don't have the right major or the right skills. And you start to question, like, what am I doing wrong? Because I thought I had done all the right things. And even what now? Should I just use AI? Should I use AI to apply to compete with the AI that's scanning my resume? And we have students, you start to feel unsure, you're overwhelmed, you feel stuck. Maybe you feel a little paralyzed, like, well, I don't want to try to do it anymore because I don't want to be rejected, or maybe I'm doing it the wrong way. And we can't dismiss the amount of mental health challenges that are with our young adults. Over 40% of our students have some kind of mental health challenge. And you add in a pandemic, we are still seeing the impact of that years after. It's still happening, and I'm still seeing students who graduate in 21 or 20. It was a real impact to all of our students, and I get it. And some of this doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It just means that you haven't been taught how to do it the right way. And then we have employers. And employers have said, I need talent. But as we all seen, employers have scaled back. They have to make some really hard decisions right now based on economic changes, based on changes with AI. And very often they're really picky. They want the right talent for the people that they need. And if you think about it, a few years ago, there were 2 openings for every job seeker. Now there's 2 job seekers for every job opening. So it's much more challenging to get a job. And employers, when a lot of times when young candidates get in front of an employer, very often a student will say, oh, I really want this job because it'll be great for me. But the truth is that employers don't want to hear that. They want to hear, how can you make it great for them? How can you help the employer make more money or more widgets or improve customer service? It's not about, of course, everyone wants it to be great for themselves, but employers are like, how are you going to make it great for us? The other thing that's happening are a couple of trends. First one is called quiet hiring. Quiet hiring is where employers never post a job on the job board. You never see it. They're just going to go to people that they know and trust and say, do you know anybody that you'd recommend for this role? I don't want to go through putting the job out and sorting through all these resumes. So it never hits the job market. That's built on relationships. And the other thing that's happening that's really starting to impact hiring, especially for young adults, is what I call job hugging. Job hugging is where people who are in the jobs now, they're hanging on to it. They know they see how hard it is to get another job. So where they might have looked elsewhere sooner, they're hanging on tight. So between people not leaving their roles and employers being more selective, it is harder. There are fewer opportunities, or it is more become about building that relationship and that networking. And the other thing is they do want to see real world experience. They do want to see internships. It doesn't always have to be. It could be part-time jobs. It could be volunteering. But they want to see that how you as the candidate can connect the dots from the experience that you had to how it could help them in the workplace. And we have to talk about AI. I'm going to talk about it a lot more, but they're really trying to determine where can AI supplement or substitute for certain tasks. If you really come down to it, there's the National Association of Colleges and Employers, NACE. They do a lot of the surveys. And the truth is about 13% of employers have replaced entry-level roles with AI. Not as high as I think everyone's making it out to be, but they expect students and candidates to understand it. You cannot say, well, I just used it to cheat on my homework. They want you to see that you not only have a skill set, but you also understand how to use AI to maybe analyze or look at data in a more thoughtful way, or really question it because AI makes stuff up. So they want the best of both worlds. And I'll talk a little bit more about that, how they really want the blend of human skills with the know-how of understanding AI. All right. So we have all these 3 parties of these different views. So what do we do about that? What do we do about everyone having kind of a different view or outlook? So let me share with you what right now some of the challenges or obstacles that we're seeing with young adults and why this feels so challenging and so difficult. So if you didn't know already, 2 million students come out of college every single year. And as I said previously, thanks for posting that, Meg. As I said previously, there used to be 2 jobs for every candidate. Now there's 2 candidates for every job. So very competitive. And the unemployment rate for new grads is higher than the national average at about 6%. So that's kind of a tough situation right now. The other thing, when talking about internships, lots of students want internships. 8 million students want an internship, right? If you figure on average 2 million out of every graduating class, and most want one, or even those who graduated, but there's not enough supply to manage the demand. Only half were able to get the internships that they wanted to get some real work experience. The other thing happening is that we have underemployment, meaning grads are working in jobs that don't require a college degree. So they're underemployed. We've seen applications increase on campus about 30% for a lot of those on campus postings, but the postings are fewer. There's 15% fewer postings. It takes 6 months to land a job. I have students who say, well, I don't understand. I've tried for the last 6 weeks. I'm like, it takes 6 months of solid effort to get that job. So there's this disconnect where most grads and a lot of educators and universities believe that they're ready for work, but only 50% of hiring managers agree. And if you even, there was an article last week by, God, I think I'm going to say Jeffrey Salingo, who talks a lot about this, basically saying that universities now need to do a better job of helping to teach to AI. And they're not prepared. Some schools are. Ohio State's doing a little bit, but they really need to amp up their game to really help young adults be ready. So let's talk about some opportunities. Let's talk about some positive news in terms of where the growth is and where the opportunities are. If we think about where the biggest growth is right now in IT, specifically even healthcare, there were over 600,000 jobs in healthcare added last year. We continue to see growth in cybersecurity, cloud, analytics, the places that you think that have that complement to AI. There's also huge growth in the trades. So we have this massive growth in terms of areas of things that cannot be replicated with just technology or AI. Also growth in clean energy. We've seen jobs in AI surging over 25% and with a lot of benefits to those roles. The outlook for the class of 2026, again, according to NACE, right now they're calling it flat, about 1% over last year. But the observation, they're calling it flat but fair, meaning that there's a correction that's happening and that there's about 70 to 85% of employers are going to increase their hiring. It doesn't feel like that, but they are going to increase their hiring for grads. It's just figuring out where those are. I think the other really key piece in a world where we keep talking about AI and technical adaptability, I'm going to give you some more insight too from employers, is the need for being a critical thinker, being able to be adaptable, being able to work in a team and collaborate and use your ethical judgment. These are human skills, right? There's a reason that tonight you're coming to see me as a human. I am not an AI avatar. Versus you could go online, you can ask ChatGPT or whatever about how to help your kid get hired. But this is becoming the new premium, the real in-person skills that AI and technology cannot replace. And interestingly, the C-suite of executives see that grads can be more adaptable or more prepared because they've had to deal with so much, whether it's through the pandemic or managing through all these different, remote learning. Skills-based hiring is big, where more and more employers are actually holding skills-based hiring more valuable than GPA. And 70% of employers are looking for the skills. And I think that's a real opportunity for students to understand skill sets that you have. It's not solely based on the grades. Of course, you want to do well in school, but I think there's an opportunity of where you can really leverage the skills that you have. And the prediction is that there's going to be 11 million jobs created because of this AI landscape. But I think that the message that being human, right? We're not going anywhere. People, and I'll say this, people, and that's my mantra over and over again, is that you have to forge relationships with people because that's who's going to do the hiring. I want to share this. I thought this was really interesting, is that this was put out by the World Economic Forum of the top 10 fastest skills growing by 2030. And of course, the obvious ones is, AI, cybersecurity, tech literacy. But look at number 4, creative thinking. That makes me feel really good that we need creativity. We need someone to be resilient and agile and flexible and curious. These are really important skills. And I want to share, there was an interview done with ABC News with the CEO of who runs Claude AI, is a woman who actually was an English major in college, not a computer science major. And she actually strongly believed the question was, what should students study? What should the majors be? And she actually still felt very strongly about humanities. She felt very strongly about understanding English and literature. And she really felt that the human skills of being, collaborating and being resilient and building relationships, she's like, those are the people that we look to hire, even in an AI driven company. So I thought that was really interesting, especially in light of, we keep thinking, well, what should I do next? Is that, you need to still demonstrate those skills and gain that experience. And whether it's through a club or volunteering, and I'll talk about the ways that you can do that. So let's talk about, I thought this was really interesting. I had the opportunity a month or two ago to meet with the head of recruiting of campus recruiting, who solely recruits for internships and recent grads. I had met with the head of campus recruiting for Morgan Stanley, Wells Fargo, and New York Life. And it was really, really insightful. And I kind of synthesized their data of what they shared with me here. And I think it's really important because you'll notice that this is not a technical conversation. This is about how do you prepare and what do you expect from a candidate when they come in and want to potentially, work for you. And what they've said is, let me just grab what they have said over everything is being prepared. So what does that mean? It's not knowing that you know how to code. It's knowing, why do you want to work here? And what does this company do? It was pretty amazing to pretty much all of them that the amount of students who might have an amazing GPA or come from a phenomenal school who didn't prepare before an interview, who didn't understand what the company did or didn't really look them up, or was like, well, tell me about what this company does or what your department does. And they just feel like these are the basics, right? You have Google, you have any AI platform you can think of, that if you're not prepared, that's kind of makes a statement of maybe you're not serious, or maybe you're just kind of throwing us out there as we're one of 100 that you're applying to, and you don't really care about us or care about this job. And that was the next piece. They said, yes, we like to see GPA, but I really want to see someone who's motivated, or I really want someone who wants us, who wants to be here, who thinks they can really make an impact. Sometimes, and I don't know if it's a generational thing, but the affect can be very, either monotone or not smiling or not enthusiastic. They just want to be wanted. And not just to feel like you've applied to 100 other jobs and they're just one of many. Now, I understand students are burnt out. Students are also have been rejected as well. So I know it from both sides. But I think there's a real opportunity. Again, these are like human interaction skills that they want to see from candidates. I'm going to say it again. The soft skills are outweighing the technical, right? They were recruiting. They'll take a look at an English major for a financial role. If you can connect the dots of maybe you did your own investing, maybe you analyzed information, maybe you did a lot of, reading. They want people who can think and who actually can communicate and talk and form a relationship. Because also, if they're going to be working with you, they want to know, like, can I get along with you? Can we have a conversation? They want to feel that you're resilient, that you'll take the initiative, that you won't sit and try to figure something out. I mean, they want you to try to figure something out on your own before coming to asking for help, but they also want you to ask for help or say, here's what I've done. This is what I'm doing. Do you have any other suggestions? Anyone else I should talk to? They really want them to advocate. I think the same conversation about internships. They want to see there's some kind of experience. They understand that not every student can get an internship. Not everyone can afford to potentially even take an unpaid internship. But it's not everything. Did you have a part-time job? Did you do research professor? Were you in a team that you worked on a project in class? Can you talk about that? So I think there's ways. I don't want, I know students sometimes get really stuck like, I had no internships, therefore I don't have anything to offer. That's not true. Everybody has a gift. Everybody has something to offer. It's a matter of, pulling that out and figuring out what that is. Their expectations around AI, and I think I kind of hinted at this before. They really want to make sure that you know how to, like, you've played with it, you understand how to use it. For example, like even for myself in this business, like I've created some custom AI GPTs, and I don't anyone knows what that means. Basically, I made an AI that only knows my material, my book, my voice, my blogs, and then I can ask it questions, customized. It's like, are you at least kind of experimenting and trying things out and willing to learn? You don't have to know how to code. You don't have to have you don't have to be an engineer, but they want to know that you can utilize it in the workplace and apply your human skills to determine when AI is going crazy or, making an error in judgment. They want you to be professional. Again, these are basics. Looking someone in the eye, shaking their hand, sending a thank you note, dressing professionally. And I know for some students, sometimes they don't realize, again, maybe you weren't taught in school, but just being professional. And the other piece is about starting early or earlier than you think. And I have this sometimes, I'll have students say, well, it's April and I really want an internship for June. Depending now let's just talk banking. Banking starts really early. Banking starts 18 months ahead. If you want the junior year summer internship in investment banking, you need to start by the beginning of your sophomore year to start talking to them. That's not for everybody. But just the process of, if you really want to be at a certain company, start looking on their website, start talking to people, start showing up to networking conversations so you understand what those are. So I think it just was really insightful to talk with them. And if you hear from the conversation, it's not saying that you need a 4.0 GPA from an Ivy League school and you have to be able to code. That's not what they told me. They want you to be human and they want you to prepare and they want you to be excited to work there and show some desire as to why, and not just, they don't want you to wing it. I don't want you to wing it either. So I hopefully that gives you some insight. So I want to make sure I get to people's questions. So I'm going to give you a chance. I'm going to take a look at the Q&A and see what we have here right now. I'm going to jump around a little bit, so I may not be able to get to everybody. All right, so let's see. So hi, okay. So my son is a high-performing computer engineer. He's graduating in May. How does he find a job? He's filling out applications online. So I kind of answered this, but I'll get a little bit in more detail. So if you have a student who's just saying, hey, it's a numbers game, it's not. It's not a numbers game. So I want to just kind of dispel some myths. It is not more is better. More is not better. Less is better. So there is a technique that I teach, and I call it, there's a couple steps. I call it the 10 and 10 rule. Instead of applying to 100 jobs, I'm going to stop applying for a moment, and I want you to pick 10 companies that you are interested in that are appealing to you. Maybe you've seen them in the news. Maybe you've done some research on them, or they're just names of companies you've heard about. Pick 10. Of those 10 companies, I want you to go on LinkedIn. And by the way, I have lots of videos that teach this if you go back to my other videos. But very simply, go to your own university LinkedIn page. Every university in the US for sure has a LinkedIn page. Go on the icon. If you click your own icon on your own profile, click it, and there's a tab and it says people, or it might say people or alumni. I haven't looked at it in a few days. But that brings you to a way to filter, where you can filter and find people who went to the same school who work at those companies. And by the way, you don't have to find the vice president. Find someone who's young, who graduated in the last few years, who's doing an entry-level job. And I want you to write those names down, put them in a spreadsheet. And I want you to send a note in LinkedIn to these people saying, like you, I'm also a fellow grad from the same school or same major. I'm really interested. I see that you're doing this role. I'm really curious in learning more about your role, or I'd like to understand how you got there. I appreciate connecting. And once you connect, you have their email. And then you can send a little bit longer email explaining, this is where I am, this is what I'd like to speak with you for 10, 15 minutes to learn more about your role and how you got there. You're not asking for a job. That's like asking to get married on the first date. It's like a little too much. I want you to ask if you can speak with them. These conversations will yield so much better insight. And if you have a good conversation, ask good questions, you're able to talk about yourself, which I'll talk about in a moment. That is now the inside track of how people get hired. People don't always get hired through hundreds or thousands of resumes. People get hired because someone inside of the company knows you and can refer you, or will, bring you into the process themselves. So instead of having your son applying online, have him do my 10 and 10 strategy. I write a lot of blogs about this. I think Meg is posting a couple. I teach this all the time. The other key component, by the way, about that strategy is having some clarity about skills. And I think this might answer some of the couple of the questions too, of like, well, I don't know what I want to do, or how do I move forward? Everyone has a talent, everyone has a gift, but I think what's really critical for students to understand what their top 3 core skills are. A skill is not saying you're hardworking. It's not saying you're responsible. Those are attributes. Those are great. That's not the skill, because if you have 10 people in a room that says we're all hardworking, you all look exactly the same. A skill is something that you have done that can maybe demonstrate a result. You analyzed a report. You are a writer. You wrote 5 articles. You maybe created digital content. It's something more concrete that you can talk about. I'm a leader. I'm a problem solver. I'm a researcher. But figure out what those 3 skills are, and then be ready with an example of how you demonstrated each skill. When that gets figured out again, that's the foundation for the entire job search. You can answer any question in your interview. You can write any letter about yourself. You can answer the tell me about yourself question. So that's like a really key component. We teach that. It takes time because a lot of times they don't see it themselves. But that's kind of the piece. Okay. This kind of answered that similar question, like how do I get insight on how to actually get in front of someone? And that targeted networking is how you get in front of someone. That is how you get noticed. Because at the end of that conversation, if it went well, the question should be, is there anyone else that you think I should meet with? Or can we meet again? I'd like to follow up with you. Or I'd like to maybe, can you be a mentor for me as I go through this process? So you have to reach out to people, because remember, people hire people, not tracking systems, not AI. So I hope that helps. Say hi. My mom is I don't know, this is the mom, or maybe I'm a mom. Sophomore applying for finance internships. What do you do if you're not at one of the target schools? I hear you. Not all finance internships come from target schools. I absolutely, even when I spoke to the recruiter at Morgan Stanley, he said, yes, do we have certain schools that we like? But, candidly, it's funny, they're not going on campus as much as they used to. So it also can be on the onus of the student to reach out to say, who is the contact from Morgan Stanley that comes to my university? If there is none, you can go to LinkedIn and you can go to literally search for campus recruiter Morgan Stanley, and you can find these people, HR, for early career, or campus recruiter, that will find those people. Because I do believe that you do not have to be at a target school. You need to clearly connect the dots and show how you have a base foundation and you understand the content and how you add value. But I don't think you have to be at a target school. And look, I want to just also, I think sometimes parents and students obsess over the name of the company. And a lot of times students will be like, oh, I only want to work for like EY, Deloitte, or JP Morgan, or Goldman Sachs, or Morgan Stanley. Like, that's like a handful. There are thousands of companies that many people, parents and students alike, don't know about, don't even understand. So before you say, well, I only have to work here, like there's lots of companies that need those talents where you can build those skills. And it doesn't have to be the marquee name. I think people get really hung up on that because there's a lot of opportunities and lots of companies, and the path is not linear. You can go from one place to the next. To me, it's all about building a skill set. When you prove and you've built a skill set at one place, that's how you bring it to another. Okay. Let me see what else here. So, hi, John. My son's a senior at Indiana with a sports marketing and management major, minor in finance. He did an internship with Real Madrid in Spain. Very cool. There are many different companies and teams. Which sector of the sports marketing world have you seen is more active in hiring? Thanks, Meg. I'll look in the chat too. Okay, this is a really good question. This is like probably one of my most viral videos that I've ever done on sports marketing, sports management, how to get hired in sports. So let's just remember for a minute, and I'll call sports and entertainment kind of in the same category. Highly, highly competitive, highly difficult to get into. But here's what everyone needs to remember about sports. Sports is a business. And as much as it's all exciting and the teams that we love, it's a business. So if you're thinking about sports or sports marketing or management, what part of the sports business do you want to be in? Do you want to be in HR? Do you want to be in contracts? Do you want to be in analytics? Do you want to be in sponsorship? And I think getting really clear about what part of sports and what business piece of sports you want to be in, that will direct you onto the kind of people you need to talk to, the kind of people at the company, because and I don't want to discount it, but I have lots of kids who be like, oh, I love sports. I really do want a job in sports. I'm like, yeah, well, get in line behind, the 1,000 other people that feel the same way. I think you need to be really clear about what part of that business you feel with your skills that you can impact, and then look for people who are in that part of the business. That's who you want to network with. So to say like, well, this department hires more than others. I mean, I know in sports, ticket sales hire a lot. It's hard. You're cold calling. It's pure sale, right? That's sales, right? You could be doing that for anything. You could sell a widget. You can sell financial services. You can sell, a data product. It's selling. And I think what happens is sometimes our students forget that there's all these components that, again, they have a business, they have a problem that needs to be solved. How can you solve the problem in that piece of that business? So I hope that gives a little bit of insight. I know it's a tough one. Everybody wants sports. It's very competitive. Okay. Let me come back up and let me come into the chat because I know. Just, we are recording. Everyone will get the recording. All right. This is a good question because everybody asked this. And I'm going to cover AI in a moment, by the way. So I have a whole section on AI and AI in your resume, but is there an AI tool that can format my resume to get around the ATS and that you would recommend? Boy, do I get this question a lot. So can AI just cheat the whole system for me and apply for me? Here's the problem. I'm actually going to show you, since you're asking me, I'm going to jump ahead a slide just to show you real quick. Here's the problem with AI resumes. AI resumes are very easy to spot because they're like this crazy accomplished individual that shows up. All of a sudden it has keywords like I championed, I helmed, I, pioneered, and all the power to you. If you're a college senior and you pioneered something, that's amazing. But I'm guessing in most cases, you did not pioneer something. And if you did, great. Here's other ways that I can tell, and so can employers. There's very grandiose verbs. There's a lot of buzzwords. There's some very unnatural sentence rhythm. It starts with a big verb, or it says I improved efficiency by 25%. 25% of what, right? It'll throw in a lot of junk. So be really, really careful about doing your resume with AI. Because what's happened is you have an AI resume meeting an AI scanner, and companies already like Microsoft, Cisco, and others have said, oh, this is a mess. I can't even find a real person. So they're not doing that. So I know, here's how I love using AI. I love it when you create your own resume and you want to refine the sentence. Maybe you want to make it a little tighter, or you want to, say it in a little bit more concise way. I'm not the biggest fan of putting your, let AI run with it, because unless it knows you really well, it's going to make up a lot of stuff. And I can see it. The employers can see it. It's not the shortcut that you think. spend time figuring out your skills and write yourself a resume with a framework of this is what I did, this is what I accomplished. By the way, using metrics, I have a free, maybe Meg, put that in the chat. I have a free resume guide if you want about how to write your resume, and then you want to refine it with AI. That's all fine with me, but you really need to make sure that your skills are in there. What did you do and what did you accomplish? And people are looking for metrics. It can't be, I just, grew 25%. Well, 25% of what? Maybe you added 10% more people to the club that you ran, or maybe you were able to analyze the errors by looking, analyzing a spreadsheet and using Excel. Like, tell me the skills that you know, and that's what I want you to kind of know. So sorry, I kind of had to jump over to those real quickly as well. Let me just go back to a couple other questions, and then I want to make sure I share some other, I think some things that would be of value to you as well. So let me jump over here in the chat. What if your student, here's a good question. What if your student is past the internship window? They graduated with a master's last spring. Any tips on getting inside? Really good question. So I kind of go back to what I said earlier about forging relationships with people who are doing the job that you aspire to do. And I love to start with alumni because they tend to be the most friendly, the most sympathetic. And just because you're not looking for an internship, it could be like you, I went to the same master's program or I went to the same undergrad program, and I'd like to connect with you to learn more about your role. I mean, it's simple as a genuine curiosity and fact finding. And then when you get into the conversation, we actually teach a framework that's really, really effective of helping young adults be prepared, because a lot of them don't know how to prepare. We call it the 3 A's. The A's stand for actions, attitudes, and answers. So when you plan for your meeting, you think about what answers do I need from this person to gain information that I couldn't find on the internet? What information do I want to learn? And if I understand this information, also, what attitude do I want that person to have about me? Meaning, what skills do I want them to understand that I have, right? Your turn to talk. But ultimately, if they agree that you have a skill set, what action do you want that person to take? It's not like, thanks so much for talking and I'll keep your resume on file. That's fine, but that's not an action. An action is, would you be willing to refer me to a colleague in a department where maybe I could learn more about their role? Would you be willing to be a mentor? Would you be willing to refer me for a job that I would like to apply to in terms of getting my resume out of the pile and getting it in front of the hiring manager? So I think there's some real strategies that you can use, even if you already got your master's. Like I say, it's never too late. Even if you've graduated 5 years ago and you want to pivot, it's never too late. It's just, you've got to get yourself back into the motion of not hiding behind the device in your hand or thinking that it's a numbers game. You have to reach out to people. Let me answer a couple more, and then I want to share some other things that I think will be really, really valuable to just based on some of the questions that are being asked. Just one more question here. It says, I'm in the design world. How can you get potential employees to look at your portfolio, as that can be the selling point for getting an interview, but perhaps the ATS doesn't get through the resume? I love this question, especially for people who are more creative. I love having a portfolio. I hope your portfolio is some kind of URL or web link, because it makes it really easy. Because if you put it on the top of your resume, they can look. Again, don't rely on the tracking system to do all the work for you. You have to get in front of the right person and the right people to make sure that they can view your portfolio through those same networking techniques that I shared previously. So I know it's uncomfortable. I know it is, but I'm going to tell you, the fear is greater than the reality of when you actually do it. What's in your head of what you're so afraid of, it's not nearly as scary as actually when you actually do it. And you're like, oh, that wasn't bad. And wow, I just made this connection. And wow, this person actually said they could refer me. And it actually just changes the game of your entire search. So let's talk a little bit about this whole AI and what to do in this AI-driven market. If I haven't said it already, is leading with your skills, this idea about people hiring people. And the best thing is you need to combine AI knowledge with your human skills. And this is like, I feel like maybe you guys are like, oh, this is so dumb. I probably know all the platforms. But I sometimes hear 50-50 of people of like, no, I haven't really played around with it to like, I know what I'm doing. There's hundreds of platforms at this point. Just get to know them. It's funny. I initially was a big Chat GPT person. My latest, I absolutely love Claude. It's amazing. Even the language, the way it assesses things. Perplexity is amazing for research. Google is built into a lot of the Gemini and the Google Drive, but just get to know some different platforms, be comfortable, play with it, really kind of try it in different parts of your life. But it's just important to know about it and that you're just not like sticking to one all the time. Like use some different ones. Even this morning, someone on social media told me about this one called Kimi.ai, where it creates PowerPoints, not this one, but I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Like in 5 minutes, it gave me like slides that exactly what I said. So there's amazing stuff out there. But I want to give you some tips. So this is places where you can actually screenshot if you want to, grab a screenshot of the screen. I love these prompts for how to use AI in the job search. So I love it for research. I love it to help you get smarter when you're not sure. So you could say, I'm this major, I'm graduating this year, I'm interested in this field, and I want to learn more about this company. Tell me about their hiring trends, roles for grads, skills they value. Give me this in simple terms. Give me 3 to 5 key insights I can use. So this is a really good way if you're just even exploring, if you're not even sure what 10 companies to put on your list, this is a great way to start of like, tell me about the companies. Maybe I never even heard of them. The other one I love is specifically is for interview prep and doing some really, really good research and making sure that you are really prepared when you're looking at it. So if you're a certain year in college saying this is the interview at this company for this job, tell me what they do, who they serve, how they make money. Give me the top things that I should know so I can answer the question, what do you know about us, right? That question is a guaranteed. And if you don't come in prepared, like, come on, it's here, it's everywhere. You can ask it, just please make use of the technology to help you and educate you. And it can be in a really short and concise way. It doesn't have to be these long things. That's why I love AI. Be like, give me the top 3 pieces I need to know from this article that was just, promoted. Here's another tip that I love for AI. This is about how to do some interview practice. So not only can you have AI ask you interview questions, but this is something where you need to be ready to answer an AI related interview question, such as, how do you think AI is changing the way people work? Or being ready to answer, can you share an example of an AI tool you've used, even for school or personal projects? You should have that ready to go. You should know what you're going to say because people are asking this more and more about, what do you think about AI? Or how do you think you'd use AI in your job? So that now, along with some of the basics of, tell me about yourself, candidates really need to be thinking about how you'd answer that question because that's coming up. And the other way I love AI is about keeping you accountable and setting tasks. So either to keep you informed, but also to kind of keep reminders. So this is a simple one where you can say to AI, every day at this time in this time zone, send me a single digest on what's happening on these companies or this industry and give me 5 bullets, give me only the top 3, credible news stories from the past 7 days. Just, it's really, really good to stay on top of it. I also love it where it can remind you. So you can set a task to say, I'm doing my job search and it's really hard for me to stay motivated. And it'll send you a reminder of like, today, I want you to contact 5 new people on LinkedIn. And tomorrow, I want you to practice this one interview question. So it's really good. I mean, we do that within our coaching, but it's nice if you want to have the little accountability reminder from AI as well. So there's great tools. We just talked about this, how to know, just be careful, just really be careful. Don't be lazy. Like think first and write your resume and then have AI refine it with, proper grammar or maybe some better language in there as well. Kind of mentioned this. All right. So what do we do? What's the takeaway, right? What do we do with all this? I've given you a lot of insight as to like what's working, what's not working, what to do. If you're a student, here's what I want you to come away with. And then I'm going to give you an assignment. And if you want to email me back and tell me that you did it, I would love that. But here's what I want you to remember. is that right now, skills are more important than your GPA. I'm not telling you to fail out of school. I'm not telling you to not study. I want you to understand and think about, what is it that I'm good at? What do I enjoy doing? Like, what do people tell me I'm good at? And maybe I need to really make sure I talk about that as part of my interview process, or when I write a networking letter to meet with somebody, saying, I have strong skills in problem solving, analytics, whatever it might be. Because when you get that clear, people are impressed, like, wow, this person really knows, you're confident in what you have to say. The other piece is, you have to remember, is people hire people. And I don't want you to measure the number of applications that you send every day or every week or every month. What I want you to measure is the number of networking conversations that you have. And that's going to be a lot fewer, and it's going to be a lot lower, but it's going to be a lot more productive and yield a lot better result. I also want you to remember, you got to learn how to play with AI. You got to understand that, but it's your skills in using AI. That's what people really value. And how do you differentiate yourself? When you said to an employer, the reason, and if an employer says to you, why should I hire you? Your answer to them is, you should hire me because I understand your priority is X. You're focused on this thing. And my skills of A, B, and C can help you accomplish that. And that's why you should hire me. And that's what makes you look different to other people, versus saying, I'm hardworking, I'm responsible, and really wanting to be there, by the way, too. That's showing that desire. And here's the hard one. You're not going to like this. One call, one email, one text, one easy apply is not going to move the needle. Just not. And you're going to have to persevere, and you're going to have to follow up every 7 days and over again. And it's going to feel hard, because this process is hard. I get it. People don't respond, or you get rejected, and you're just like, why am I even bothering? I'm telling you, you have to persevere to keep doing it. And you got to push yourself. And I take very seriously too, if you feel like your mental health is really impacted, get help. Ask for help and get help, because I know this is hard, and a lot of young adults are really struggling with mental health challenges. So here's your assignment. And if you're a parent, you can screenshot this, because don't worry, parents, I have an assignment for you too. I want you to identify this week, what are your top 3 skills that you think that you have? Here's examples. I want you to pick 10 companies, not 100, 10 companies that you think that are interesting to you, that you want to focus on. You'd be interested in working there. I want you to find 10 people across those 10 companies, ideally an alumni, and use AI to do some research on them. Use the prompts that I gave you previously. Tell me about these companies. Where are they going? Where are they, are they doing well? Are they struggling? And then I want you to, there's a free resource, and I think Meg just posted it. I want you to practice answering, tell me about yourself. I have a free resource. It gives you the framework of how to do it. It's basically introducing yourself, what school you went to, what skills you have, and one example where you use them and how you're interested in learning more. You're not giving them your life story. You're not telling them where you grew up and where you're from and all that. And if you just kind of hone in on these activities just as a start, it'll really get you a lot further. All right. Parents, here's your assignment. Here's for you, because I get it. I get it. Instead of asking them how many jobs did they apply to this week, try not to ask that. I know it's really hard. And just because I do this for a living doesn't mean that I did a great job with my kids. It's really hard. I want you to ask them, I know this is really hard for you. Tell me, which part of it is your biggest challenge? Which part are you struggling with the most? Just let them talk, and don't say anything. Just listen. Because I think sometimes we need to listen more and say less. This is only after now my kids are a little older, but ask more questions and listen and say a little bit less, because they have the self-pressure. They don't want to disappoint us. They don't want to disappoint you. They really don't. They're already embarrassed or feel bad, or there was a massive investment made to go to college that you've helped contribute or taken out loans. They don't want to disappoint, but they need help and they don't know how. The other piece is help them figure out their skills. If they can't see it, which sometimes they can't, you could say, I've noticed when you're doing this, maybe you have great leadership ability. Or I noticed when you did this club that you're amazing, in analyzing all the content. So help them figure out what the skills are. Sometimes they can't see it, and with the examples. And kind of, as I said before, don't measure the number of applications, measure how many people that they're connecting with. I want to talk about structure of their time. No recent grad or anybody who's a job seeker should be looking for a job 8 hours a day, every day. That is not healthy. It is not a good use of time. And trust me, it is not productive. And if you have a grad who's home and just like not sure, they should have a part-time job, or they should be going to the gym. They should be doing other things, 2 to 3 hours the most on their job search a day. So maybe just understanding that and give them some time frames. But I also want to talk about time as a as a concept, and our time as parents versus our time expectations. We as parents have an expectation that our students are going to get a job or get that internship or get all this done in our timeline, right? We're like, oh, it's February. My kid doesn't have an internship yet. They better get on this. But our timeline is not always their timeline. And I think we need to all be respectful of that. And I know it's really hard. And sometimes our kids do need a little bit of a fire lit underneath them. But sometimes we also have to realize school's the priority. They got to get through their semester. There's that balance of what we expect and what they want. So just kind of always know. Making introductions. I am a big fan of introductions, but it's doing it at the right time. If you do it too soon and your kid's not prepared, they're going to blow it. And then you're going to miss out on that person to connect with. So just be careful about the timing of that. I'm going to say it again. People hire people. I think I've said it enough. And help them to persevere. There's a phrase that I teach our students that say, every time you write a letter to someone, and if they haven't heard, you haven't heard back from them, start this email with, please pardon my persistence. It shows that you're professional. It shows that you're not going anywhere, and that it usually gets a response, whether it's positive or negative. So just really help encourage them to do that. So I know we're top of the hour. I know Meg has been sharing some content information. If you have an interest, if you want to learn about our book, it's on Amazon. You can scan the QR code. If you want to learn about our approach and sit down as a parent or with your kid, it's a really great resource that you can get access to. We do private coaching and group coaching, and our next group coaching starts on March 3rd. If you've spoken with us or haven't spoken with us, we'd welcome and love to have the opportunity to speak with you with a complimentary discovery call. We speak to both parents and students. We can do it together or separately. But that's how we support our young adults, is through coaching. And I just also want to offer, we have so many resources, which I think Meg has given you throughout the evening. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot there, really, really great free resources. One last thing as we're ending, we've got a lot of kids hired, and I don't guarantee employment, and I'm not a recruiter, and I don't put them in the jobs. But what we do is we teach them the foundation, not only to get the first job, but the second and the third. And we're in the confidence building business, and we really help them feel successful to do that. So I'll hang on for another minute or two. If people, I know there's some more questions. If people want to hang on, I'll go a little bit beyond the 8 p.m. just to help answer some questions. But thank you for attending. I really, really appreciate it. So glad it was valuable. I'll have a quick question here. So my daughter has a job in investment banking when she graduates this summer. That's amazing. In addition to the interviews and her experience, she was told that her letters of recommendations from previous internships weighed heavily. Amazing. So that just shows, like, literally one internship leads into the next. And I want to talk about one other thing too. I have a lot of people who say, my freshman and sophomore want an internship, and I'm all for that. But you have to also manage your expectations. These big name companies do not hire freshmen and sophomore, but there's thousands of other companies who are looking to help gain interns. I have Meg working with me, or I love to actually hire sophomores and juniors, help me with my social media, because we can work overtime. Is that think local organizations that you're able to gain skills that really help build you into that next, maybe more higher level name internship that will help you move forward. So just a note on that. Sorry, for parents. You're asking, I don't understand what introductions at the right time is referring to. What I meant is parents very often want to make introductions. I'll come back here just as a, I'll kind of keep this here in case you want to schedule a call. And what I find is that sometimes parents will make an introduction to a friend who's an executive or vice president of a company, and the kid will go to this conversation in person or over the phone, and they kind of blow it. And how do they blow it? They weren't prepared. They didn't do any research. They're way too casual. They think just because it's a friend of mom and dad's. And the parent probably should have not made the introduction of their student to this person who's a personal friend, but also in a position of power to hire. You probably did it too soon. So my point is, don't make introductions when your kid isn't ready. Don't do it right away. Make sure you practice or role play or that they are prepared before you get into things. So you got it? Yep. So that's kind of my feeling on that. Let's come back here. Daughter's studying abroad. So yeah, so here's what I'm going to do, because I know we're at the end and I want to be mindful of everyone's time. I'm going to take some of these questions. Feel free, if you'd like to email me directly, you can send me an email to Beth, B-E-T-H, at nextgreatstep.com. Because some of you are anonymous. So if you wanted to message with me directly, happy to do that. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm on every social platform. I post a lot of content there, but I'm really, really grateful to this community, also to my team who's also been working in the background and makes this all happen as well. But thank you so much. I'm wishing everyone a successful 2026, and we're here to help if you need support. Thanks so much and have a great night.